for the first half an hour, you and the science. So maybe the concept science panel with Borneo, and I met your minister in Kali conference. Yeah, CBD, and we mentioned.
I didn't go. I see. That's why you're here and he's not here. That's a division of the.
So I mentioned that we want to take the opportunity of Malaysia as chairman of ASEAN. We developed science panel of Borneo for science panel leadership. So Jana is the co-chair with me for the science panel advisor to the president of Indonesia.
I will share what we been so far about worship team.
Yeah, because I've been following your ministry, Malaysia Forest Fund, ecological physical transfer.
Yes.
So MSF, and then it's also about history. Global rainforest fund. Hopefully you mentioned it. Because this COP is about financing, kan?
Yeah, financing. This is finance COP. So the money is on top.
No money. I mean, but
slow.
So I work very online everyone. So hi, my name is Lama. I'm just part of the coordinating team here. So how it's going to start is MC will introduce the session, introduce all of the speakers, and then she'll say we'll firstly begin with part one, and then she'll call Prof. Sachs as well as on this stage for the first part of our panel discussion. So Prof will be seated here, and then Dr. Ching as well as Prof. Sachs will take these other two seats. Okay.
Whoever has the bigger ego, oh, hang your ego outside the room. By the neck.
And then after that, Prof. Once the first part is, once you wrap up, you can say, okay, this is the end of part one, and pass it back to MC. And then MC will say that the Ching and Prof. Sachs, thank you, please return to your seats, and then she'll call the three of you up to stage to begin part two. And then she'll hand it back to you for the return.
But this is the room, huh?
No, please return to your seats. Clear, right? You will get started once Prof. Sachs arrives.
Okay.
But he's on the seat.
You know, where is your success? Can you call him? Can the vice president call the president?
No, of course.
Yeah.
Begitu. Baru. Congratulations.
Banyak kali. Tengok. Asyik suka aja. Okay, thank you. Okay, later, bye-bye. Yes, this is my humble self. Today is humble self, tomorrow is humble. Hambar. Humble, that's my humble. I met the from Penang. Yes. Which part of Penang? From Penang. You set up like did you go to school in Penang? I took for 5 years. Not the 1970s. You are too young. 1999. Crisis.
And you get some stress.
That time, yeah. This time, that's okay. Because we musicians I just like a seat for the family.
I'm ducking out. Congratulations again. Nice to see you, Prof. How are you?
So you were in the industry?
I was. Congratulations on the launch of your. I haven't went to the other. I'm sorry.
Yes, we should
But
carry a
I
pass. regret. Well, doing
Yes, we
good
know each
instead of
other as
doing
well.
well.
Eve,
Yeah.
nice to see you. Yeah, I was with SDSS. We were all together in our
Habis PhD saya kau tak lain? Yang kamu PhD kan? Tak saya finish already.
Certainly not staff like this. I know. I think those days you take a bus, you take about an hour. But now we're all good roads now.
Now, the name is misleading. We're a civil society network working on the phase out of
Finally, face the familiar name. I used to work with Prof. Mazlin on many assignments together. Yeah, not good actually. I'm very much a waterman. I got many friends in Vietnam.
running. Congrats on the
Where
launch.
is coming? Water, for example, same meaning, same pronunciation, same spelling. But it is always like orange. Chinese apple. Potato.
All right, everyone. Good evening. Yeah, we will be starting in 2 minutes. Yes, thank you. Yes.
It depends on the disengagement. I have my question, a question, and we both that's really low.
Oh, the former. The shortest.
So when you go in the rest of the
Yeah, that's one. I mean, come on.
I think they will have something. Okay, then General, saya cek kerja. SG. The next one.
Sekejap lagi kita. Okay, so everyone are ready? We can start with our final session for today. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome and welcome back to the Malaysia Pavilion. So we have gone through many sessions today, and now is the last session for day 5 at the Malaysian Pavilion. To conclude our day 5 sessions, we are privileged to present the Science Panel for Borneo, SPB, Uniting Scientists and Communities for a Sustainable Future. So while the SBP will have its official launch at the Indonesia Pavilion just now, today's panel at the Malaysia Pavilion serves as an introduction to the vision and collaborative goals to the initiative. So SPB brings together Malaysia, Indonesia and Brunei in a concerted effort to safeguard the biodiversity of Borneo, one of the world's most biologically diverse and ecologically significant regions. This panel will explore the role of scientific partnerships in protecting Borneo's forests, waterways and wildlife, and how this collaboration can drive sustainable practices that respect the needs of local communities and indigenous populations. The discussion will underscore the shared commitment among these nations to ensure the conservation and sustainable development go hand in hand, balancing environmental preservation with socio-economic growth. So leading today's dialogue that is Professor Datuk Dr. Wu Wing Tai, the Vice President for ASEA, the United Nations Sustainable Development Solution Network. Joining him on this distinguished panel are notable leaders in conservation and sustainable development. We have here Professor Jeffrey Sachs, the President of the United Nations Sustainable Development Solution Network. We also have the Honorable Datuk Dr. Ching Tu Anak Lelaki Kim, Secretary General, Ministry of Natural Resources and Environmental Sustainability Malaysia. And then we have Datuk Professor Mazlin Mokhtar, the Deputy Head of Research at the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network Asia HQ and co-lead of SPB. And Professor Jatna Supriyatna, Universitas Indonesia and co-lead of SPB. And lastly, we have Dr. Minhas Farid Ahmed, the Lecturer and Research Fellow at University Kebangsaan Malaysia and SDSN Fellow at the United Nations Sustainable Development Solution Network Kuala Lumpur office. So today's panel discussion will be divided into 2 parts. The first part will be a discussion with the key leaders. With that, I would like to invite Professor Jeffrey Sachs and also the Honorable Datuk Dr. Ching Tu and Professor Datuk Dr. Wu Wing Tai to the stage for the discussion.
Yep.
Okay, over to you, Prof.
Well, we are very lucky today to have two senior leaders in the field of sustainable development. So, Jeff Sachs needs no introduction, neither does Dato Chin. So let's get down to business. Jeff, tell us.
This is wonderful. The world is moving to a higher level of efficiency. I really appreciate that. We're getting down to business. So, thank you today for the launch of the Science Panel of Borneo, which is a fantastic initiative. First, because it aims to protect the unique and wondrous biodiversity of Borneo. Second, because it is an initiative of three countries, of course, the three countries of Borneo, Brunei, Malaysia, and Indonesia. And everything we can do for cooperation among countries is an absolute plus and an absolute gift right now. And so I want to thank the governments, and I want to thank the Secretary General also for the support of this initiative. We need cooperation to protect the world, and this will be a model of cooperation among the three countries, and also a very crucial model in its own right because of the role of Borneo in global biodiversity, and also a model for other countries to emulate. And indeed, the Science Panel for Borneo is a model that is, even as we discussed it in the Indonesian pavilion just an hour ago, other groups said, well, what about us? What about the Sahel? What about this region? What about that region? And my answer was yes, yes, yes. Get your scientists together, because only the scientists of the region know in depth the ecology, the challenges, the communities, the underlying cultural attributes, the ways forward in sustainability. And only the local communities and the national governments care enough to protect the region, because outsiders can never do this. So my answer for each of these ecosystems is do it. Get together at a region. Understand, by the way, that conservation inherently for any ecosystem crosses boundaries, crosses national borders. We draw artificial political lines, but nature does not. And the orangutans, they will go anywhere. And they will cross the forests, as will all the other species. And so we need to help them. We don't have to give them passports and visas. We just need to protect their habitat and keep it open, and keep open the chance for their thriving and survival. We have 3 science panels that are now interlinked for the Amazon, for the Congo Basin countries, and for Southeast Asia. The Science Panel of Borneo is the start and the hub of what will be an expanding effort to cover other parts of the rainforest region of Southeast Asia, which of course extends all the way to the ocean, to the Pacific Ocean, across many countries and many specific ecosystems. And so our aim is to find meaningful scientific protection and help. Our model, Secretary General, of course, is to support you. Governments, in the end, are the ones that implement, are the ones that enforce the law, are the ones that handle the resources for the flows of funding to communities. So this is all absolutely in the spirit of support for the government. And I'm very grateful to the government of Malaysia for its leadership on sustainable development and very much excited about the government of Malaysia's leadership of ASEAN in 2025. I do expect big things from the ASEAN presidency in 2025. And most importantly, I'm hoping for an ASEAN-wide agreement on energy transformation and on biodiversity conservation as central pillars for ASEAN going forward. And I believe that this is the Prime Minister's intention and the government's intention to have a bold presidency next year. It's very timely because, as I'm emphasizing, many things are happening at the global level. Next year, 1 year from this COP, is every country is to make its new nationally determined contribution. But next time, it can't be an incremental step. It has to be the path to full biodiversity protection and decarbonization and other dimensions of climate action. So not an incremental step, but actually achieving the aims that we say the world needs. So this is one thing that's happening next year. Another thing that's happening next year, we hope and expect, is that Brazil, as the host of COP30, will be leading the way to a new global tropical forestry fund. So the idea is to put real money behind tropical forest sustainability. And that's money for communities to be stewards. It's money for enforcement. It's money for scientific management. It's money for innovation of bioeconomy technologies and so forth. But the idea is to fund the sustainability of the tropical forests. It's never been done. But Brazil, as host and as, of course, the home of the largest part of the Amazon, is determined to get it done. So a partnership of Brazil, Malaysia, Indonesia, the rest of ASEAN, the Congo Basin countries, the rest of the Amazon countries, is really in the works right now. And it's a very, very promising dimension. So thank you for the launch of the science panel. Our colleagues here have been doing great work, very innovative. The scientists in Borneo are experts in this unique ecosystem, and we're grateful for the partnership and your leadership. And the Sustainable Development Solutions Network at the Asian level and at the global level is committed to promoting the findings of the science panel of Borneo to put them into the center of the global discussion and the global problem solving. So thank you all for all that you're doing. I'm deeply touched and very, very impressed. Thanks. And with all apologies, the way that today is working, I have to leave for another speech, sad to say. So I want to thank everybody and permit me, Secretary General, to depart a little bit rudely, but I have a 5 o'clock and it's way on the other side. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff.
Prof, can we have a group photo?
Of course. Oh, let's take a picture.
Yeah,
Okay.
before Professor Jeffrey.
So we sit here, right?
Yes, can. So can we have the attendants to stand up?
Yeah.
All right, look at the camera and have a big smile. Squeeze in if you can. Okay, then we have a video. Please wave to the camera and have a big smile, very big smile. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Jeffrey Sachs.
Yeah, right. Jeff will be coming to Malaysia.
Maybe we can start the session too straight away. Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. Ambil gambar dengan. Yeah, the band office.
Correct.
Yeah, five.
Yes, we have enough chairs.
This is yours.
Yes, of course. We're going to visit.
Would you like to?
All right. Okay. Well, it starts to see Professor Jeff to have to leave first, but then we have to move on with our panel discussions. So why not we invite all the other speakers to join Professor Wu on the stage to discuss for the next our discussion. Please invite Dr. Ching, Dr. Professor Mazli Mokhtar, Professor Jatna Suprianta, and also Dr. Minhas Farid.
Thank you very much. I think let's do some introductory. Is this on? Well, as you could see, my Ulu-ness shows up every time when I try to do something. Well, since I'm in a nervous state, what I do is I try to steady myself by distracting attention. So let's show the slide. And what we're going to talk about is about the Rainforest Initiative that we have going. One thing we found out about how the Forest Initiative started was quite a revelation to me when I was looking at sources of CO2 emission in Malaysia. I found out that for most of Malaysian history, the most important slide is not here. Sorry. Okay, let me tell you what the most missing important slide was. As you can see, I'm too excitable. And so it slided out. Okay. One thing that was shocking to me was only 1/3 of what Malaysia emits finally make it into the atmosphere. And the reason why we have such a low net rates of emissions was because our forests sucked up 2/3 of it. In fact, Malaysia, until the mid-1990s, was a negative emitter. We are a country of suckers. That's why we hear so much about phone scams. Now, so having found that out, we decided that to decarbonize, you really have to do the more sucking up. That is getting this protecting the rainforest. But then protecting the rainforest also means biodiversity protection. So, and we were highly inspired by an effort that my group has done in the 2020, when the Amazon had 775,000 fires in 2019. The 8 Amazon countries were so shocked by the 75,000 fires that they signed a treaty called the Leticia Treaty to protect the Amazon. And of course, it came at a very high cost because the person who reported the fire was fired the next day because Bolsonaro was the president then, and he is a Trump-like figure. And the report we did, the science panel for the Amazon, was done from a group of volunteers of 200 people, and they produced a 38-chapter report. And you would think, who in his right mind would read 38 chapters nowadays? The longest thing we read is a tweet. But, you know, what intellectual tweets we have become. But what was amazing was, this got the attention of the Brazilian public. In the 2022 election, Lula da Silva embraced our report and made it as part of his manifesto. And he said if he wins, he would not only protect the Amazon, because that would not be enough. The lungs of the world would not be big enough if only that was preserved. He was going to form an OPEC of rainforest. And he identified Malaysia, Indonesia, and Congo to take the lead. And so they signed an MOU in 2022. And in 2023, we launched the Science Panel for Congo. And this year, we are very lucky that we are able to pull together a team of 3 countries to do this study, starting with Borneo. The leaders of the study, I take no credit because I'm the advertiser for them. The first is Professor Jatna of University Indonesia and science advisor to Pak Jokowi. And the next is Professor Maslin Mokhtar, formerly long-time director of Lestari at UKM, and now with retirement, he has been drafted to work harder. And that is Professor Minhas. He is heading the secretariat of the science panel for Borneo. Well, the science panel of Borneo does not just look at environmental protection. It talks about social justice, the indigenous community, and it also talks about you cannot possibly protect the environment if people do not have alternatives to cutting down trees and hunting animals. So economic development is a very key part of this project. And we have 7 sections, and we are lucky that the following have volunteered to participate. We have got, I hope at the end of today's panel, we are at number 10, which is the Ministry of Natural Environment and Resources. Thank you. Here's a little pressure on you. And on the Indonesian side, we are very lucky that each of the provinces had their leading university participating. And we have got the AWANI, the big universities on Java, to also participate. And that's our deadline. And so, inshallah, we'll make it by June 2025. So let me ask Datuk Ching to begin with how he sees the way forward.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Thank you for inviting the Ministry to share some of our works with regard to conservation. I think I would like to start with doing some promotion for my country. For those of you who have not been to Borneo yet, let me give you some facts and figures about Borneo. Right? It is a house of 15,000 species of plant. Okay. 306 species of mammals, 742 species of birds, 654 species of amphibians, 506 species of reptile, as well as more than 2,000 species of freshwater and marine fish. That Borneo. And we thank the Borneo as well that today our forest cover is more than 54%. Our pledge is only 50%. As of today, 54.8% forest cover. Let me give a bit of my thought about the scientific, it's the SPB, right? Okay. From the policy perspective, okay. This is what I see from the ministry. I think I view the role of SPC from a different perspective, right? Number one, domestic perspective. It must align with the national biodiversity policy. We launched the policy this year. It must align with that policy for you and us to tap into the funding mechanism, the funding from various parties on that. Okay. In ASEAN region, you have to align with the ASEAN Working Group on Nature, Conservation and Biodiversity. Within the broad perspective of the ASEAN's Social, Cultural and Economics Blueprints 2025. I believe we have worked closely with ASEAN Secretariat on that. And the global perspective must align with the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework on the global perspective. Only when you connect the dot between these three perspectives, then, right, first you support the government's initiative that align with ASEAN perspective as well as supporting the global perspective on that. That's number one, right? I think in the ASEAN regions, we have already an existing platform to work on the Borneo projects. We call it Heart of Borneo Initiative, HOB in short. Bringing Indonesia, Malaysia and Brunei to work on how best we could conserve biodiversity in the Borneo, Borneo, right? And the 14 meetings of the Borneo, of the HOB will be happening next year when we chair the ASEAN Chairmanship. We want to take that meeting a step higher, right? And the most important thing, how we could tap into the Forever Forest Fund announced by Brazilian government. 250 billion worth of fund will be provided for the forest conservation, right? We have to work together, Prof, on that, right? We know Ministry has to got the backup from all the NGOs, from the SPB. And the other important thing is that just to share what has been done locally, right, with respect to biodiversity conservation. If we follow up what has been done, next year's budget, we have announced 250 million ringgit. It's about 250 million is about USD is about you divide by 5 is about 50 million USD for the EFT of biodiversity conservation, ecological fiscal transfer, and this fund is going to assist state government for them to conserve the forest, to make sure that we do not disturb the 50% pledge that we have made to the Rio Convention, right? That number one. Number two, we have done a bit as well to assist the community that are affected by the forest, we have launched what we call it the biodiversity protections fund. To put it very straightforward, right? Where we allocate some fund to assist the local community, to appoint a number of rangers community to patrol our forest, to make sure that we could eliminate, if possible, illegal poachings that coming from all over the world. So they come from Cambodia to our country to do the poaching on that, right? And this has been proven very successful initiative. we have managed to reduce the number of illegal poaching in the country. And we are very proud to announce that we would like to keep our lion tiger. As of now, we have about 150 in the wild. And our target by 2040, we want to increase that number to 400 numbers of lion tiger. That may be a bit of sharing for the first round, Prof, on that, what we have been, and we are very, I would say, positive. We have the collaboration with SPB that we could take it and further to ASEAN next year.
Thank you for the overwhelming flow of good news, Mr. Secretary General.
Not too early.
No. Now I'll sleep easier tonight. Professor Muslin.
Thank you. Please allow me to stand there, otherwise I will have a strained neck. I would like to use the PowerPoint. I control? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Prof. Wu, Datuk Ching, colleagues and all. I control or they control? They control.
No, you can click.
Right. No. They control. Okay, please.
Oh. That's fine. You're good looking enough.
Is it coming? Minas, do you have the slide? Oh, huh? Oh, so sorry. It's okay? Can we load now? Yeah. Too late. Yeah, never mind. Anyway. Yeah. Let me see. While describing, maybe you invite Jatna first. I will load up the slide. You have a slide, Prof. Jatna? No. Okay. Invite Jatna first.
Pak Jana, tolong.
Thank you, Prof. Basically, we just launched in Indonesian Pavilion about the science panel for Borneo. We have especially excited about this science panel in Borneo because, as we know, that the Indonesian capital moving to Borneo. It's already started last month. So that's going to be excited what that really means for Borneo. How many people is going to move to Borneo for capitals? So 3 million, 5 million? I don't know. So that's going to be very important. I'm part of the consultant for the capital cities. They are about 250,000 hectares. It's mostly of the plantation. It's not they will not destroy forests. In fact, out of the 250,000, the capital cities, 70% will be forests, reforested. From the plantation, from the eucalyptus, into the regular forests. So they're very excited. So there is also there will not be any urbanized. It's going to be flat. It's going up for the government official. So this, I think, for government is also very excited because that moving maybe is not going to be. The new president said, well, not going to be tomorrow. It's going to be 10 years or maybe 15 years. So they're slowly. So there is an opportunity for us to really understand how that the biodiversity is there, especially in the East Kalimantan. As you may know, in Borneo, the highest, what you call it, the hotspot of Borneo is Sabah and also Eastern Kalimantan. That the Norman Mayer mentioned about the hotspot, which means that all the biodiversity there. You can see the elephants, the rhinos, and all is there in the area, and also the heart of Borneo. So that was really important. We discussed with the member of the heart of Borneo, how do we work together? Because it's already Indonesian, Malaysia, and Brunei is already there. But of course, scientists from many other countries can welcome. At the same time, as we mentioned that, we have all the local university in Borneo, in Kalimantan, they're gonna work together. Because I think the very important thing is, as you may know, that the peatland areas in Borneo is very, very important to really understand what's happened, that because of the forest fires, mostly coming from the peatland. That really, when you move the government there, hoping the government will pay attention more, because they don't want to have haze for those cities, so they will be prevent most of those fires in Indonesia. The exciting that I have, for example, the last president already have what you call it moratorium. No more forest conversion in Borneo and many other Indonesian. So that was really one step ahead. The other one is also we have the biodiversity action plan. I think Malaysia has that. Indonesia just revised biodiversity action plan. In fact, that is going to be announced next month, maybe the end of this year. The new one, which is basically more toward sustainability, how the biodiversity can also mainstream into the SDGs and into many others, which means that the Kunming-Montreal agreements and plus with the SDGs, plus with the government plan, they work together. Of course, it's very exciting because the new president, the new minister, used to be a Minister of Environment and Forestry and one minister. Now they split again. So for us, it's going to be very important to talk to them. In fact, that I just met in Jakarta last week with the Minister of the Forestry. I mentioned about the SPB. I said excited. I think they really love to see collaboration between Malaysia and Brunei. So that really my 2 cents of my presentation. Thank you, Pak.
Thank you for the good, the excellent introduction. We'll have some questions at the end of the presentations.
Right, thank you. And I apologize for the hiccup and the miscommunication. Thank you, Alma, for fixing that little problem. Belanja you later. Okay, this is the I was relying on him relying on me, but anyway, Science Panel for Borneo, Uniting Scientists and Communities for a Sustainable Future. Well, you know, the importance of Brunei, Indonesia, and Malaysia, particularly the scientists and the preeminent researchers to come together to form the 7 clusters. Datuk Ching was asking, Mazlin, sudah adakah ini team? Are the team ready? Yeah, it's ongoing, Datuk, and we hope to deliver the draft by middle of next year. These are the 7 clusters, as what had been shown by Prof. Datuk Wu. And yeah, big scope. Amazon report, 34 chapters, 1,000 pages. If you can't sleep at night, you read that report. Even 2 weeks ago when we were at the CBD, COP16, Yang Berhormat Nick Nazmi, Minister and NRES Malaysia, had a 20-minute audience with us together discussing. He likes the science panel and he also requests about the haze and the air quality problem. That was his special request. And he likes the fact that researchers and practitioners coming together from the local perspective come together and look at the state. And of course, we are not forgetting the contributions of partners, including foreign researchers who had long been working on Borneo. Anyway, the scope is big. Carbon sequestration, pollution, degradation, livelihood, this is very important. climate and land use changes, impact on indigenous communities, benefits also must come through to them, and also in planning and all that. Implementation of global commitments, as Datuk Ching mentioned, environmental assessment, yeah, Deputy Director General Environment will be happy, never forget about environmental assessment, policy and governance assessment, and of course, economic and social assessment. As you can see, leadership of SDSN are all the economists. Jeffrey Sachs, Wu Wing Tai, and Ma Torres. Why? No money, no talk. Little money, little talk, but we must carry on. Anyway, monitoring impact at the policy level is challenging, but we must abide to these key performance indicators. Some of the indicators that we'll be looking at are deforestation rates, emission, carbon emission, biod indices, socioeconomic outcomes, policy monitoring framework, independent evaluation, and this is important. We have been listening at many pavilion data-driven decision-making. This is where science is very important in bringing data and good data. And of course, impact at policy level also must be monitored in terms of transboundary collaboration, community involvement, particularly the indigenous and local community. Audit must happen to be transparent, and the reporting mechanisms. Enhancing scientific collaboration across basins. This is really, really special. For the first time, the three science panel met in Colombia. That was historic for us. And even the Amazon friends were saying, hey, Borneo, don't aspire to write 1,000 pages. Even the Amazon are going to write a policy brief, about 180 pages. They're going to launch at the Belém next year. Strategic approach to the science panel for Borneo involves scholars from the three countries. But of course, we have to look at the bigger picture. Even if you're standing at Borneo and with the upcoming Nusantara, which we believe will happen because of some hiccups, but might happen 20 years, 25 years, one generation. So we need to prepare the successor in terms of good scientists and all that. Successful example of science-driven solution, case studies of Heart of Borneo, a transboundary collaboration between the three countries. Impacts of climate and land use change, we must look at this, the shift in weather patterns, increased flooding, and direct consequences of deforestation and land conversion of agriculture included, leading to habitat loss and extinction. This is what we want to avoid, the tipping points. If that happens, there is no point of return no more. This is why the scientists and researchers must come together and work with government and other communities. One thing good about local community impacts and success stories, already if you look at Kandingan Mentaya project, USD 200 million from World Bank, benefiting 35 villages, taking care of about 145,000 hectares of peatland in Kalimantan. And this lesson we emulate in Sabah, Kwamut Rainforest Conservation Project, already happening. And of course, all the good success stories from Amazon and Congo River Basin. So that's why this collaboration is important. And now I'd like to invite Dr. Minhas for the nature base and the close. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Datuk Mazlin Mokhtar. Actually, we are trying to find out the current status of Borneo. So our 7 clusters are already preparing the report. So nature-based solution is one of the important approach to mitigate the impacts those who are facing nowadays due to climate change, the extreme weather events and other, as well as which is enhanced by the man-made activities. Sorry, the slides. Yeah. Nature-based solutions, main important that factors in the Borneo is the plantation of native tree. And successful cases we have already there. There is about 2,400 hectares of degraded forest has been restored by the project from IHSNA Sabah. Along with the role of local communities in and sustainable practices. That is very important, and we have also have the success story in Sabah, that is Malaysia palm oil certification, where communities are promoting sustainable practices and reducing deforestation. We have also the river rangers in Sabah, which is protecting the biodiversity, becoming the training of trainers for the nature in Sabah. So there are many success stories which need to enhance more for the protection of and conservation of Borneo. Another issue is innovative funding mechanism. So far in Indonesia, there is a project, Ecosystem Restoration Concessions, where industries are allowed to manage the forest, and which give them the capacity to income generation via carbon credit. So this can be also adopted in other places with a similar context in Borneo, as well as the greater picture we are showing nowadays for the Southeast Asia. And last but not least, most important, the integration of knowledge from the individuals, the indigenous people, and the local community, and advocacy for the participatory research and co-creation of scientific technological improvement is essential. And we have also the success story, the Tagal system in Sabah, where the communities are actively involved, which enhance their capacity to combat the food crisis, and enhance their capacity for food security, and making the water resources more cleaner, and the native species are comfortable in that environment. So these are the few examples which is very important, not only for Sabah, and we are expecting a globe with less impact from the climate. So we want to share this knowledge to all over the world. So with that, I conclude. So last one is the time framework, which Prof. Dato Wing already shown to you. So currently, we are in the preparation stage, and some findings has already been presented in the COP16 in Colombia by Prof. Dato Mazlin. So we plan to finish the first draft by July 2025, and we send to Prof. Dato Wing, Professor Jeffrey Sachs for approval. For finally, we want to launch, publish in the COP30 in Brazil, so that we can have the hard copy and publication in April 2026. So with that, thank you very much. Acknowledgement, we have acknowledgement our team members and others. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ching, for your valuable advice that in order for our work to be useful, we have to take into account of the domestic priorities that have been set, the regional framework, as well as the global agreement. Yes, it's a very important reminder that we should not try to reinvent the wheel. The framework is there, and now we have to think of ways in which we could be useful in making the framework achieve the objectives. I'd like you to tell us other advice and what you see to be the biggest challenges that we would face in the work.
I think the other important thing then I think we ought to acknowledge is that when you come to Malaysia, for example, right, we have to acknowledge the interplay of policy between federal government and state government when it comes to the forest management. Right. I give you the example. Takes the Ulu Muda forest area, for example. Ulu Muda serves 95% water supply to state of Perlis and Pulau Pinang, Penang Island, right? And and we have the problem of getting these three states, the Kedah who claim they are the owner of the forest, the Penang Island and the Perlis states. The idea on the table is that how we could bring these three states together and forming what we call the Ulum Buddha River Basin Authority to manage the Ulum Buddha Forest Reserve. That number one. And states has been asking for a compensation for them to conserve the forest, right? The EFT I've just mentioned is only an incentive to incentivize state to conserve the forest. It's not a compensation mechanism, right? And that I think when you, Prof, when we go down and talk to the state government, this thing must be clear of the separation of power between federal government and state government. The second point that I would like to highlight is that we are at MISI, we are just amended the forestry law, I would say, right? One of the important element in that law is that we would like states to, before we give up the EFT, they have to adapt to the law, amendment that we have done. And if they were to convert the Malay reserve land, and this land must be replaced immediately of the same size, they were imposed on them, right? And again, this is not easy thing to do, right? Because of course, state, they have their own forest enactment, land enactment, which is state law, right? So we have to do, we have to do a lot of so-called buy-in sessions, stakeholders engagement. But of course, we have all the means to do that. We have the national land councils, we have the biodiversity council meeting. But we ought to acknowledge that when you come to land and forest, it is a state jurisdictions that it will take it part. I just want to share also when you come to one thing is about climate change, right? Forest plays very important role as a carbon sink. That's why we want to keep 54% of forest cover. And if within the framework of the SPB, right, we could measure as well the role of the forest from the climate change perspective. We have currently on implementing what we call it 100 million tree planting initiative as part of carbon sinks. By the year 2025, we want to achieve that figure, but we will achieve that figure earlier than that. 100 million thousand trees, right? Again, on this, as Prof just been mentioned, right? We are going to reduce deforestations. Of course, we have to abide by the EUDR regulations on that, right? Palm oil is a major challenge for us on that, right? How to make sure that all these, the federal law, state law, the benefit to the people, the co-benefit between people on the ground as well as the local contractors are taken into account on that. That's my 2 cent advice, Prof.
That's the $1 billion advice. Well, Pak Jana, would you like to elaborate on what you see to be the most difficult things on the Indonesian side of the...
I fully agree with Dato' Chen about the state and federal, or Indonesia said the central government, because the forest is also managed by local government, while the conservation area is managed by central government. So when we're trying to conserve, then we have to work with the two. And that is, if you have to see, in Indonesia we have 5 local government. Plus, within that provinces, there's so many local plus with the indigenous people. The thing is that I talked to the minister recently. They want to have the social forestry more. They they predict that they have 12 million hectares already, the social forestry. They want to have more. So maybe, kind of OCM and social forestry. You don't have to be rigidly about the national park or protected area or others. As long as they can be protected by communities, as long as they can be protected by local government or even the companies. There are many high conservation value forests in the company. I saw one company, for example, in East Kalimantan. It's only about less than 1,000 hectares. There are 90 orangutans there in a small pocket of the forest. So I think that's a really opportunity for us. When we talk with the company, he said, well, I can manage that. So that, if you have that kind of, conservation, not only traditional way, but conservation mainstreaming into what the development is. So that is not really going to much more challenge with the local government, but we're going to have local government to manage and also the companies. So I think the ideas and to many people, especially the Indonesian scientists, and how do we work on that? Because OECM, especially the Dayak people in Kalimantan, they have already a forest appropriation by them for to be protected. So I think it's really good idea if you have look at the whole system. Then we can use that, especially when the Nusantara, because Nusantara is a big, but also they want to make sure that they're going to be 70% going to be forested building. They call not the like Singapore is a garden cities, but it's a forest cities. So Nusantara is going to be forest city. So I'm going to be very excited. I think ideas of that. But also there is a challenge. For example, the government want to have the food estate. Recently, there's a food estate is going to be. But as long as there are so many, in Borneo itself, in Kalimantan, about 20 million hectare is degraded. We can talk with the government. Here is the thing, food estate, where there is not so much a problem with the biodiversity with the communities. So we can use that science like multi-criteria analysis, so that spatially we can use a win-win solution with the community and with the forest. That's really the possible, I think, the ideas. So we already discussed that more, but of course, this is scientist talk. We need to be how do we from the knowledge into policy? That's really important for us, because we still don't have any, what you call it, the translational science. The need for translation, like Prof. Who know how much is that really when you have to convert into a conservation, how much loss, the revenue by local government, if you are foregone revenue especially. So I think that's really excited for us, especially the scientists.
One of the most important points you've made is that we are starting out on unexplored areas in which creativity is needed. Like, for example, you gave the case of a company with 90 orang-utans within its plantation. So the business model, a secret, is to add in some monkey business in order to get a superior solution.
Exactly.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
From my perspective, yeah, we agree about how to bring it home from beautiful policies at federal to state, and at the end of the day, special training for district officers and local authorities. And also calling upon all professors and universities, please approach your nearest district officer and local authority. And we also would like to encourage, already happening in universitas in Indonesia, already in Kalimantan, for example, Lambung Mangkurat, they become a SDG center for the province. I would like to call upon all the universities in our region, please form a small SDG center, because this is what is needed by the decision maker and policy maker, the knowledge and the information from research. One more thing is about standards. You mentioned about palm oil. This is really a big challenge. Indonesia is #1, Malaysia #2, and palm oil had brought our very poor people out of poverty and all that. So we really need to balance. And you talk about our SPO, Roundtable Sustainable Palm Oil. Very difficult to achieve, but what is good about Indonesia and Malaysia, we form intermediate standards first, ISPO, Indonesia Sustainable Palm Oil, for Malaysia, MSPO, and then we try to leapfrog into RSPO. So these kind of standards achievement bit by bit. So this is where, again, modules coming from brilliant researchers, practitioners combined together. And hop on another one, the creative carbon markets. Today, it's voluntary carbon market, but soon it's going to be mandatory. And at the moment, a few big companies are controlling on becoming the verifiers and validators. Let's think of a way. I like one example about Sabah. Even though there's MSPO, they also come out with JASPO, jurisdictional approach to sustainable palm oil. So these are the kind of creative things, how you can achieve things step by step. Leading advanced country and markets of the world, please understand the needs of the developing countries. This is where we need to try to strike that balance. And to strike that balance is really difficult, but it's not impossible. Together we can find that solution.
Thank you. Professor Min.
Thank you, Prof. Datu. The main challenge, or whatever we have seen now, is the communication. So hopefully, if the scientists from the Borneo come together under one umbrella, we can have better authentic data that can be usable by the government for the development purposes. And this, in order to doing this, already some mechanism in part of Malaysia already have. For example, the water sector transformation. Under this have all the modules that mentioned by Prof. Datuk Mazlin for the capacity building of the local government. So our main challenge to minimize the communication gap between the federal, state and local government, along with the multi-stakeholders, NGO and communities and business sectors, to come in the same platform, so that the report produced by Science Panel for Borneo is valuable for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let's open the floor for a few questions or comments, not necessarily. So you have your hand up first. And this gentleman here, would you mind telling us your name and your organization?
Faisal Parish, Global Environment Center. Been working on, particularly on peatlands across Borneo for many years, and very happy to hear highlight the importance of peatland issue in dealing with this, and the issue of transboundary haze are very closely linked together. So I hope that the work of the panel can really come with some good common sharing of the knowledge between Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brunei. I really think there has been very great strides, particularly in Indonesia, on the science, the monitoring and restoration approach of re-wetting peatlands. and the legislation and other regulation in terms of how to manage palm oil sector on peat and how to restore back after palm oil the peatland area. So I think just any response from the panel about how best to integrate or how it is already integrated into this and how we can draw on the common learning. The other area I think is the indigenous knowledge. There's a great amount of indigenous knowledge in the communities and how the panel is going to really draw on that indigenous knowledge in the countries to strengthen the study. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have 2 or 3 questions and then we'll get reaction from the group. This gentleman, anybody at the back? Oh, sorry. Oh, Rashmi, okay.
Thank you so much. My name is Azmat Khan and I am working with a local NGO called FRD in Pakistan. And really impressing work and really impressing plans. I was just like very happy to see at least these 2 sectors, the livelihoods of the people as well as like capitalizing on the indigenous knowledge of and indigenous understanding. Our experience in Pakistan is like the forest deforestation and forest degradation is an issue in some of the areas, and the local communities do know that some of the forests do have this self-regeneration capacity. But the issue is that the people's livelihood are dependent on the rent from the herders who bring their cattle during certain seasons, and those are exactly the seasons when the forest actually regenerate and the cattle actually destroys that. So I was just really happy to see that you people use the conservation, but still you people are considering the livelihoods of those communities whose lives and livelihoods are actually dependent on those ecosystem things. And just one thing, many a times when it comes to the indigenous knowledge and the indigenous people, we do say that we value them, but somehow when it comes to the practice, then those people, because we have gone to the universities and we have got all these PhD degrees and we are sort of very knowledgeable, so somehow that indigenous knowledge gets sidelined. So it is really amazing to see these both. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the reminder. Yes.
I think most of decisions are made quickly, and normally is based on the past experience or the interest of association or the habits or something. But from the presentation made by the panel, seems like there's lots of collections of information need to be conveyed clearly to the decision makers. So my question is bridging the gap between these scientists and to the decision maker is very important. So how you could foresee it to make it so that make decision is being clear. Okay.
Well, let me ask my fellow panelists to answer before I offer my opinion. So,
yeah, thank you, Prof. and Dr. Hasni. Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah, for us, if we look from our experiences with water sector transformation. One more thing before I delve into that, the key thing about translational science, and you mentioned about nexus. That is the thing or things that we need to figure out these days. Not only bio-D separately, no, bio-D with water, WFE, water, food, energy, everything is interconnected. And our interest is always from our own discipline. So how do we make things work is really not easy because we are in the VUCA world. We are very vulnerable, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, but this is a thing. In Malaysia, we are relooking at the education blueprint. And education nowadays, we have Mission 4.7, education for all. But I would like to translate that also in terms of education, training, and capacity building. And this would mean how to bring all this vast amount of knowledge and pack it nicely. This is where we need to delve into the needs of every state, even into the needs of every district. if you look at policies, Malaysia is one of the countries which have beautiful policies, blueprints, but the challenge with how to bring it down. With SDSN, this is a beauty. SDSN is a membership of about 2,000 universities, 95% are universities, because we gather knowledge and experiences from research and all that. And we have a SDG Academy. Because Nexus, translational science, what does it mean? It means SDG, Sustainable Development Goal. So easy to say, but so difficult. So this is where, if things work with advanced countries and Scandinavian countries who score high marks every time SDSN publish a report, who are the high achievers? The Norwegian country and all that. Because if you look closely, because they are successful at the district and local level, this is where our region, we can take a shortcut. We can avoid all the mistakes and past mistakes of all the country. We can do an express, but the secret is have a very relevant module. So our experiences for Malaysian Water Sector 2040, we have already this module, but even that, we think it needs to be brought down. Even for teacher training, we have a big challenge. Teachers will say, oh no, not another module. No. But you do need a relevant module. That's why Amazon Group say, don't think about lengthy reports. What's needed? Brief, very brief. And I believe not only the professors and researchers, experienced government officers and policymakers like Dr. Ching, Dr. Hasni, we need you also to come up with creative modules. But this is where SDSN offer from all over the world, we can take shortcuts. Together we can do it.
I understand that indigenous people in Borneo is very important. I have my master student and PhD student who's working on the indigenous. And they are very, very much beautiful because in fact, they conserve, right? So how do we get that, bring it to the national level? Because of course, they has to fit with the law and regulation. And the community and the local Dayaks and with the different setting when they are conserved. Not like the general science how to conserve. So I think they need to have understanding that. And how do we bring that local knowledge into the perspective of the national level? Perspective, the global understanding of the conservation. So that's really important. The second one is also Borneo is a very interesting, as Faisal mentioned about the peatland. It's no one in the country except Sumatra and Borneo has the deep dome of the peatland. How do we do that? Because most of those in Brazil and even in many other countries is a very shallow peatland. Understanding that is only has to be local. Not just everybody should teach us, well, you fire, you so many haze, but they don't understand the context. You know, like I'm working now with the EUDR. It's very tough for Indonesian, of course, yeah, because how do we preventing smallholders? Indonesian oil palm, most 40% are smallholders. And they have million people. And the UDR said, by then, you have to that baseline and then not even to collect all the information in the local, it's not easy. Yeah, so that's why I think there has to be in collaboration between local government, and also the NGOs at the university. What we don't have is the pool of knowledge, sharing pool of knowledge between Malaysia and Indonesia. That's really very important. How that making sure that our experience with local, because the IBAN is across the boundary, They don't have any border of IBAN, you know. It's all IBAN within same. So indigenous and so on. So I think very exciting for me that how do we see it? I have been early 70, I was in Borneo and making sure that, you know, talking with this community and so on and so on. So it's very important in the future that this is bring to not only the keep in the closet, but need to be, you know, up so that the global know how they preserve and conserve the community, the forest by themselves. Plus, also they know how to use that. People that, as I mentioned, that some of those said, well, this guy eating the animal. But when we study, the animal that took by the community using blowpipe is the guy who's not really healthy, right? So it's, you know, sometimes it's, when you understand, then really good that managing the forest, basically community is good. So that's not really what the perception of the Western communities about the forest. That's really my reason.
Thank you. The most difficult that the making breeze among the multi-stakeholders. So far we have examples, have framework. For example, IUCN already have provided SEPA, communication, education, and public participation. So in Malaysian context, we have also contributing to this framework. So it's also try and error. It's context-based. How would be the framework? So there is no perfect, which is 100% perfect, but we still trying to have the capacity building of the multi-stakeholders, which will actually enhance the communication. Here also comes along the willingness of individual, and which is also driving factor is the political willingness. So this all should come together to make a better breeze among the multi-stakeholders. That's my thinking. Thank you.
Now, clearly, in order to be useful, there has to be timely feedback from the public, the civil service, to the work that we present. So we have to make sure that what we produce is worthy of being paid attention to and reacted by the ultimate user. So in the end, it has to be an interactive process, and we hope that that could be established with not just the federal government, but at the local government level as well. Well, we have gone past time, and we have more than make up for Jeff Sachs's absence. Well, Jeff will be in Malaysia again in January 12th to 15th, and he will be revisiting the issues we talked about today. And I hope by that time we would have made some progress on our work in the science panel and be able to give you a fuller report by then. So, do you have any last words, Dr. Ching, that you would like to share?
Maybe it's a quick one. I think on the Faisal question, President, let's work together next year and how best we could address the pillion issue or the Taurus, right? I think we welcome the SPB initiative, and rest assured that we will give you a fullest cooperation in making sure that we achieve a mutual benefit for all on that. That's my short comment on it.
Thank you. That's a very good way to end today's session. I wish everybody a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much to Professor Wu and to the other speakers. So can we have a group photo? One last group photo?
Where? Here.
The first one with the speakers.
Oh, one first of the speakers first.
With the speakers first, and then we have with the attendees. Big smile. Okay, then a video. Just a wave to the video guy. Wave and smile to the video guy. Okay. All right. Okay, so now with the attendees, can we have all the attendees to stand up?
I see. So you take turns. Basically, okay. Okay.
Everyone squeeze in to make sure your face is in the camera. All right, big smile. Freestyle. And then for the videos, please wave to the video guy. All right, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us for the day 5 at the Malaysia Pavilion. See you guys tomorrow.
Thank you.